Rain hit the pavement in sharp, cold needles as Grayson Stone stumbled out of the car, his tie loose, his soul looser. Billionaire, CEO, master of nothing tonight. The board had laughed behind closed doors. The deal he poured months into collapsed in one call. His empire stood, but inside, everything cracked. And still, the rain didn't stop. Across the street, her voice rose, not loud, but clear. Not desperate, but aching. What kind of girl sings in a storm like this? He looked. She stood beneath a flickering street lamp, soaked, holding a guitar like a lifeline. Was it courage or madness? She wasn't asking for money, just singing. Something raw, real. The kind of sound that doesn't beg. It bleeds. Each note felt like a confession. Grayson stepped closer, his expensive shoes splashing through puddles. She noticed him but didn't stop. That made him stay. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, voice hoarse. She looked up, rain clinging to her lashes. "Because if I stop singing, I disappear." Who was she? And why did that answer feel like something he once said to himself? "Have you eaten?" he asked. She blinked, guarded. "No. Come with me. Just to eat. 1 hour. That's all." "Why?" she challenged. He hesitated. "Because your voice pulled me out of something dark. I don't want to go back." She searched his face. Was he serious? Was he dangerous? But the way he looked at her, like she wasn't invisible, made her nod. The elevator to the penthouse felt like rising through another life. She stood quietly beside him, arms crossed, soaked clothes clinging. He didn't look. He felt. The presence of someone not trying to impress, just trying to survive. His apartment gleamed, untouched. Marble floors, glass walls, a view of a city he no longer recognized. She stepped in like it wasn't real. "Sit," he said. "I'll make something." "You cook?" she asked. "Sometimes, when I need to feel like I still exist." He heated soup, poured wine. She removed her jacket, slowly, unsure, and sat at the edge of the bar stool like she might be asked to leave at any moment. "What's your name?" he asked. "Avery." "I'm Grayson." "I know," she replied. Of course she did. Everyone knew the man on magazine covers, but no one knew the man behind the silence. She ate slowly, savoring every bite like it was a ritual. He watched her, wondering when sharing a silence became more comforting than filling it. "Why the street?" he asked. "I used to sing in clubs, until my rent caught up with my dreams." "What happened?" "My mom died. I stopped caring what happened next." He nodded. Understood more than he expected. "And you?" she asked. He laughed once, dry. "I built a kingdom and forgot who I was building it for." A beat. "Do you miss him?" she asked. He looked at her sharply. "My brother," he said. "Every day." She lowered her spoon. "I'm sorry." He shrugged. "Grief's not polite. It doesn't knock. It just lives with you." A long silence. Then she whispered, "You don't seem like someone who invites strangers in." "I don't," he replied. "Then why me?" "Because you looked like I felt." But he didn't say it. Instead, "Stay tonight. Guest room's clean. No expectations." She hesitated, then nodded. "Just one night," she said. But was it ever just one? She lay in the guest bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. The silence in the room wasn't empty. It was padded, thoughtful. Somewhere beyond the door, she could hear him moving, maybe pacing, maybe pouring another glass of wine, maybe thinking about what it all meant. Why had she said yes? Maybe it was the way he didn't look at her like she was broken. Or maybe it was how he looked like he didn't mind being seen as broken himself. She had met rich men before. Loud, sharp-edged, entitled. But Grayson was quiet. Heavy. Like he was full of things no one had let him say. She rolled onto her side, eyes fluttering shut. Down the hall, he stood by the window. watching the skyline blur with clouds, wondering if she'd still be there in the morning. He didn't know her last name, didn't know what her favorite song was, but something about her felt familiar, like a memory he hadn't made yet. In another life, would they have met like this? Or had life carved this one night just for them? He didn't know. But he wasn't ready for it to end. She dreamed of nothing and everything. A hallway with flickering lights, a room with a broken piano, her mother's voice, rain falling in slow motion, then warmth, a voice that wasn't hers, his voice. In the kitchen, Grayson ran his fingers along the edge of the counter. He hadn't invited anyone here in over a year. Not after the fallout. Not after the funeral. But tonight felt different. Was it foolish? Dangerous? Or necessary? When she sang, something shifted in him. Something he thought was gone. He hadn't known he needed a stranger to remind him what it meant to feel. Avery stirred in the other room. Her breathing, slow and even, carried through the silent walls like music. Not loud, but present. Like her. He didn't know what morning would bring. Maybe she'd leave. Maybe he'd let her. But something in him hoped she wouldn't. Not yet. Outside, the storm passed. But inside, something was just beginning. One night. That's what they agreed. But sometimes the longest stories begin with the shortest promises. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows like a hesitant guest. Grayson stood in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a coffee mug he hadn't sipped from. Silence hung in the air, but it wasn't awkward. It was thick with questions neither dared ask. Was she still here? He walked down the hallway, steps soft, not wanting to wake her if she was sleeping. But the guest room door was ajar. The bed, made, empty. She was gone. Why did that sting? A folded napkin sat on the kitchen island. 3 words, scribbled in uneven ink. Thank you. For listening. No number. No name. No promise. Just gratitude and absence. Grayson exhaled, the coffee now cold in his hands. He stared out the window at the city below, his reflection ghosted in the glass. Why did a girl who barely said 10 sentences leave such a heavy silence? He went through the motions, showered, answered emails, ignored calls. But his mind wasn't in his penthouse anymore. It was out there, beneath flickering lamps and subway tunnels. Would he ever see her again? That evening, driven by something he couldn't name, he returned to the corner where she sang. The lamp still flickered. The sidewalk was empty. He checked the subway entrance, listened for a voice. Nothing. Why did it feel like he'd lost something that wasn't his? For 3 days, he searched. Walked neighborhoods he'd never bothered to know. Sat on benches pretending to scroll, ears tuned for her melody. Was he crazy? Obsessive? Or just lonely? Then, on the 4th night, he heard it. Not loud. Not polished. But real. In front of a closed bookstore. There she was. Different coat. Same voice. Avery. He didn't approach right away. Just listened. Her voice curled through the night like smoke. Aching. Resilient. Did she see him? She finished the song, opened her eyes, and froze. I thought you were a dream, she said softly. He stepped forward. You ran. You would have too. Maybe, he admitted. But I would have left a number. She looked away. I don't do follow-ups. Well, I don't do street corners. And yet, here we are. A pause. Then, a smile. Small. Real. Coffee? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded. They sat in a quiet cafe, the kind with chipped mugs and tired jazz. She held her cup like it was the only warmth in her world. He didn't push. Just listened. Why are you here? She finally asked. Couldn't stop thinking about your voice, he said. And the silence after it. She stared into her cup. That's heavy. Truth usually is. They talked. About music. Loss. How she hated winter but loved the sound of wind. How he used to play piano but stopped when the world started listening. She laughed once, soft, surprised by herself. He smiled, wondering how many layers she wore that had nothing to do with fabric. Was this a second chance? Or a temporary glitch in both their realities? Before they parted, she looked up. "I'm not good at staying," she warned. He nodded. "I'm not good at letting go." A moment. Then she handed him a scrap of paper. This time, a number. Progress. Later that night, Grayson stood on his balcony, the city breathing below him in slow, glowing pulses. He turned the paper over in his hands. No name. Just a number. But to him, it might as well have been coordinates to a new world. What was it about her? She wasn't glamorous. She didn't smile to impress. But something in the way she spoke, short sentences with long meanings, stayed with him. He replayed their conversation in the cafe, each word like a note in a melody he didn't want to forget. The way she spoke about singing, about surviving, about not staying. It echoed louder than any applause he'd ever received in a boardroom. How could someone with so little say so much? He closed his eyes. The city faded. In its place, her voice, the quiet in between, the look in her eyes before she left. Again. He hadn't called her. Not yet. Why? Maybe he was afraid she wouldn't answer. Or worse, that she would. And it wouldn't feel the same. Grayson wasn't used to uncertainty, but Avery brought it with her like a storm. Unpredictable. Honest. Alive. He walked back inside, sat at the piano he hadn't touched in years. The keys felt foreign. Heavy. He pressed one, then another. A broken chord. But it rang true. What if he called? What if she came back? And what if she never left again? He stared at the phone. His finger hovered. One call. One song. One night. Everything starts somewhere. The next morning, he stood at the piano again, unsure what he was hoping to play. His hands hovered over the keys like they once knew magic. But all he found was silence. Not the cold silence of loneliness, but the restless kind. The one that follows a question waiting to be asked. He finally dialed the number. It rang once. Twice. Hello? Her voice, uncertain. It's me. A pause. I figured. Not many people have this number. I didn't call to fix anything, he said. Just didn't want this to disappear. She didn't answer right away. He imagined her standing somewhere small and quiet, phone pressed to her cheek, debating whether to trust this. Are you free tonight? He asked. Another pause. Then, maybe. I'll take maybe. He smiled, staring out at the sky. One step. One answer. Not a promise, but something close. Outside, the wind carried traces of rain. Inside, something new was beginning to stir. And this time, he wasn't afraid to follow it. Grayson stood by the tall windows again. But this time, the sky wasn't gray. It was a pale gold, washed in morning light. His fingers grazed the keys of the piano. But no sound came. Not yet. He wasn't ready to fill the room. Not until he saw her again. That evening, he waited in the same cafe where they had spoken last. Same corner booth. Same chipped mug. Every time the bell above the door rang, his chest tightened. Would she really come? Avery arrived late. Her coat too thin for the weather, her expression unreadable. But she came. And that was something. You didn't think I would, she said, sliding into the booth. I wasn't sure. She looked around. Place looks different at night. Most things do. Their conversation was slow at first. Careful. Like two people standing on thin ice, testing the weight of each word. He asked if she was still singing. She said always. Just not always in places people noticed. They left the cafe after an hour and walked aimlessly, neither wanting the night to end. He told her about his brother. How they used to play music together. How everything stopped the day he died. How did he die? She asked, gently. Grayson hesitated. Overdose. Avery didn't flinch. She nodded, like she understood more than she said. That kind of silence is loudest, she whispered. They stopped outside her building, a crumbling brownstone with rusted gates and mailboxes full of unopened letters. "This is me," she said. He looked up, concerned. "Do you feel safe here?" She shrugged. "Safe enough. It's not forever." "Come to mine," he offered. She blinked. "Tonight?" "No pressure. Just warmth. Music. A room with a lock." She studied him. Was this kindness? Pity? Or something else entirely? "What would I owe you?" she asked quietly. "Nothing," he said. "Unless you want to sing." A pause. Then a smile. They took a cab. The city blurred behind raindrop-specked windows. When they reached the penthouse, she stepped in like she remembered the space with her body, not just her eyes. "Still feels too big," she murmured. "Still feels too empty," he replied. She removed her coat. He poured tea. They sat on the floor like teenagers, backs against the couch. "What do you hear when it's silent?" she asked. He looked at her. "Regret." She nodded. "I hear questions." He gestured toward the piano. "Do you want to?" She hesitated. "Only if you do." So he sat beside her, pressed a single key, then another. She hummed. The sound wove around the notes, soft and shy at first, then stronger. It wasn't a song. It was something between breath and memory. Was this what healing sounded like? When the last note faded, neither moved. Time stretched, the air thick with something unsaid. He turned to her. "Stay." Her eyes met his. "You're not asking for the night." "No," he said. "I'm asking for the space beside me, until you choose to leave." She nodded. Outside, the rain returned, but inside, warmth bloomed. A note sustained. A moment held. One more night. But already, it felt like more. Later that night, she stood barefoot on the balcony, the city humming far below. Her arms folded, breath visible in the cold air. Grayson watched her from inside, leaning against the door frame. He didn't speak. He just watched. What was she thinking? She turned slightly. "You ever wonder if this is real?" He stepped closer. "All the time." She leaned on the rail. "Sometimes I dream of warm places, rooftops with string lights, songs without fear." "You're not dreaming now," he said. She turned to face him, her eyes soft. "I know. That's what scares me." He took her hand gently. She didn't pull away. "I don't want to save you," he said. "I just want to stand beside you." Her voice broke. "That's all I've ever needed." They sat together on the balcony, wrapped in silence and wool. Two figures outlined by the glow of a city that never stopped, yet somehow gave them this stillness. In the early hours, they fell asleep on the couch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her, like it belonged there. He woke once, and just looked at her. The way her brow softened, the way her hand curled near her chin. Vulnerable. Real. He didn't know what they were becoming, but for the first time in years, he didn't need to name it. She stayed. And in staying, she changed the air, the rooms, the man. Avery didn't fix him. She didn't try. She simply stayed. And for Grayson, that was everything. The next morning arrived quietly, without announcement. No alarms, no meetings. Just two people in a penthouse neither fully understood. Grayson made breakfast, badly. Burnt toast, too strong coffee. But she smiled anyway. "This is terrible," she said. "I'm out of practice." "With breakfast or with company?" He grinned. "Both." She poured sugar into her mug like she was sweetening her entire world. "You know, you don't act like someone who's used to being alone." "Maybe I just got tired of pretending I'm fine." She nodded slowly. "Pretending is exhausting." He looked at her then. Really looked. at the way she tucked hair behind her ear, the quiet steadiness in her, the fire that hadn't gone out, even when everything else had. "I want to hear you sing again," he said. "You already did." "No," he said. "I mean really sing. Not for survival. For something bigger." She tilted her head. "Like what?" He didn't blink. "Like being seen. For real." Something shifted in her eyes. And just like that, the day began. Avery stood before the open wardrobe, holding her guitar case like it might disappear. She had lived out of a backpack for months, but now a room, her room, waited behind her. Grayson had cleared space, even folded the blankets himself. It wasn't much, but it was everything. Still, she hesitated. He watched her from the hallway, coffee in hand. "You can unpack," he said. "Or I can run." "You could," he replied. "But I hope you won't." She exhaled. "I'm not used to soft places." "Then stay until it feels familiar." They moved through the week like shadows, learning how to rest in light. She helped him cook. He tried not to burn toast. She sang while washing dishes. He played broken chords behind her humming. There were no labels, no rules. Just days strung together by quiet music and slow trust. One night, she stood on the penthouse balcony, staring down at the city like it might swallow her. Grayson joined her. "I've been offered a spot at a local showcase," she said. He smiled. "That's amazing. I don't know if I should do it." "Why not?" She shrugged. "What if they don't listen?" He touched her shoulder gently. "What if they do?" She laughed softly, brushing hair from her face. "You always know what to say." "I just know what I needed to hear." She nodded. "Then keep saying it." Days passed. Her song returned. Not just to survive, but to speak. Grayson watched her shift from guest to presence. Her voice filled the space, not with volume, but with meaning. She belonged. Still, fear lingered. The night before the performance, she sat cross-legged on the floor. "Promise you won't look at me different if I fail." "I promise. Even if I freeze? Even if I forget the words? I'll still be the guy who burnt the eggs and got lucky enough to hear you sing in the rain." She smiled. "You didn't get lucky. You were kind." He touched her hand. Same thing. At the venue, she wore jeans and a soft black shirt. Simple. Her guitar was the only thing shining. The room wasn't full, but it didn't matter. Grayson stood in the back, his chest tight. The lights dimmed. She stepped onto the stage, breath shaking. What if they judged? What if she broke? But then she saw him, hands in his pockets, eyes only on her. She closed her eyes and began. Her voice, unsure at first, slowly filled the space. Not perfect, but real. She sang of mothers and cold nights, of city streets and kind strangers. Her story, her truth. People listened, not with noise, but with stillness. Grayson didn't move. Neither did she. When it ended, there was silence. Then, a wave of applause. A few people stood. Not everyone, but enough. She bowed, eyes glassy. Backstage, she found him waiting. "You were incredible," he said. She shook her head. "I was scared. You were brave." They walked home without words, fingers brushing. In the elevator, she leaned into him. "You stayed. Always." But what happens when something begins to feel permanent? Was she ready for permanence? And was he ready to fall completely? That night, sleep didn't come easily. Avery lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heartbeat still echoing the rhythm of her last chord. Grayson was in the next room, but she could feel his presence like gravity. She sat up and wandered into the living room. The city lights painted gold across the walls. She stood by the window, arms folded, mind racing. What did this all mean? Was she ready to believe that safety didn't always come with a price? Grayson joined her quietly. "Couldn't sleep." She shook her head. Too much noise in my head. Want to talk? No. Just stay. So he did. They stood there for a while, side by side, not touching, not speaking, just breathing the same air. And it was enough. Finally, she whispered. That was the first time I sang without needing something in return. He nodded. I know. It showed. She turned to him. I think I'm falling. He met her eyes. I think I already did. She looked away. That scares me. Me too. There was silence again, but not the uncomfortable kind. The kind that wraps around you like a blanket. Don't promise me forever, she said. I won't. Just promise me tomorrow. I can do that. They went back to the couch. No declarations, no grand confessions. Just two souls who stopped running for one more night. And maybe, just maybe, they'd keep stopping together. Outside, the city pulsed on. Inside, everything changed. The next morning brought the scent of toast. This time, only slightly burnt. And coffee that actually tasted like coffee. Avery entered the kitchen with sleep in her eyes and music still in her throat. Grayson turned, spatula in hand. Improving, aren't I? She grinned. You're officially one notch above edible. They ate at the island, sunlight pooling between them, gentle and unhurried. There was no need to rush, no need to explain. For once, silence didn't ask questions. After breakfast, she returned to the room that now held her things. Neatly folded clothes, a guitar case open by the window, a scarf tossed carelessly over the chair. It didn't look like a guest space anymore. She pulled her notebook from her bag and began to write. Not lyrics, just thoughts, memories, feelings. She hadn't done that in a long time. Grayson stood at the doorway, watching. That yours? She nodded. Just me on paper. Can I read it? Not yet, she said, with a smile. But maybe someday. He respected that. Later, they took a walk. Just around the block. Nothing grand. But she noticed how he greeted the barista by name. How he let the old woman go ahead at the crosswalk. These little things, the ones you can't fake, settled something inside her. When they returned, she paused before going in. This is starting to feel real. It is, he said. That's what scares me. He took her hand. Then, we'll be scared together. She nodded, heart pounding. Not because she was uncertain, but because certainty, for once, felt possible. Avery sat at the window, legs tucked under her, the city's glow reflecting in her eyes. She traced the rim of her teacup, lost in a thought she couldn't name. Grayson was in the next room, on a call she couldn't hear, but she felt him. Even in silence, they lived inside each other's gravity now. She watched the world move outside. Taxis flashing by, couples laughing on the street, lives colliding and splitting without ceremony. A strange ache stirred in her chest. Not pain, not fear. Just the awareness that nothing good stayed unchanged forever. When Grayson returned, she smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Long call? She asked. He nodded. Investor thing. She waited, but he didn't say more. Everything okay? She pressed. He hesitated. I might have to leave for a few days. L.A. She looked down at her cup. When? Tomorrow morning. The silence stretched thin. You want me to stay here? She asked. I want you to do whatever you want, he said carefully. But yes, I'd like you to stay. She nodded, slow. Okay. He sat beside her. You sure? I'm not running. That's new. Let me try what it feels like. He smiled. I'll call. Every night. You'd better. That night they lay curled together, fingers intertwined, heartbeats sinking. But under her calm, doubt pulsed. What were they becoming? A chapter? A novel? Or just a song that ended too soon? The next morning, she kissed him goodbye in the elevator. Quick. Software. Like a comma, not a period. And then she was alone. At first, it felt like breathing underwater. Surreal, silent, suspended. But then she opened the windows, turned on the music, made tea, and sat at the piano. Her fingers hovered, then moved. She played without lyrics. Just emotion. Just space. She didn't realize she was crying until the final note faded. That night, the penthouse felt bigger. Not empty. Just unfamiliar. Like someone else's coat on her shoulders. But she stayed. She left the lights on. Left the curtains open. Left herself open. The next day, she visited the venue where she'd sung. They offered her a regular spot. Once a week. Friday nights. "I'll think about it," she said. But she knew. Grayson's call came late, his voice tired, but warm. "I hate LA," he said. She laughed. "What happened?" "Nothing. Meetings, suits, noise. Sounds familiar. None of it sounds like you." They talked for an hour about everything and nothing. She told him about the offer. He didn't tell her what to do. He just said, "I'd love to hear you there." By the fourth day, she started rehearsing. Not for anyone. For herself. The fifth day, she found one of his shirts in the laundry. She wore it while cooking. It smelled like coffee and cedar. Like him. She missed him. Not like a hole. Like a rhythm gone quiet. And when he finally returned, she didn't run to the door. She waited. Let the moment build. When he stepped in, bags in hand, eyes tired but soft, she said the first thing that came to her heart. "Welcome home." He dropped everything and pulled her in. Neither spoke for a while. They didn't need to. Later, over takeout and soft jazz, he asked, "What would it take to make you stay forever?" She smiled. "A forever that doesn't feel like a cage." "What if I built you a stage instead?" Her breath caught. "What kind?" "The kind only you can fill." And just like that, she knew. This wasn't a detour. It was the beginning. The following week passed like a slow song. Avery rehearsed in the mornings, wrote in the afternoons, and waited for Grayson in the evenings. He didn't just return home. He returned to her, again and again, like a melody finding its chorus. One night, he came in to find her standing in the living room in front of the large windows. She wore his shirt again, barefoot, holding her guitar like a secret. The room was dim, lit only by the city. "Play something?" he asked. She nodded. Her voice floated in soft waves. The kind that curled around your chest and made you remember everything you forgot you felt. She didn't sing loud. She didn't need to. Grayson sat on the floor and just listened, eyes never leaving her. When she finished, she looked at him nervously. "Too much?" He shook his head. "It's never too much. Not when it's you." The next morning, she accepted the Friday night slot. The manager asked if she had a name for the show. She thought for a second. Avery. She didn't need to be more than that. Opening night came fast. Grayson helped her carry the gear. The small venue buzzed with quiet excitement. People sipped wine. Waited. When she stepped on stage, she looked right at him in the crowd. He didn't wave. Didn't smile. He just nodded. She sang like she wasn't afraid anymore. And afterward, people clapped. One woman even cried. Outside, as they packed up, Grayson said, "I've never seen anyone command a room that gently." Avery leaned against the van. "I didn't command. I invited." "That's what makes you dangerous," she laughed. "Good dangerous?" "The best kind." They drove home in silence, hand in hand. At a red light, she whispered, "Do you think this could really last?" He didn't hesitate. "It already is." Back at the penthouse, they sat on the kitchen floor, too tired for the couch. Pizza boxes surrounded them, laughter soft and real. He wiped tomato sauce from her cheek. She kissed the corner of his mouth. "I feel like I blinked and everything changed," she said. He looked at her like she mattered most. It didn't change. It just became true. She rested her head on his shoulder. I'm scared it'll fade. It won't, he whispered. Not if we choose it. And for the first time in her life, she believed him. Not because he said it perfectly, but because he meant it. That night, she dreamed of open skies and candlelit stages, of music played not for survival, but for celebration, of Grayson's voice calling her name not in desperation, but in love. And when she woke up beside him, still wrapped in the warmth of his arm, she smiled. Because for once, the dream and the morning were the same. The apartment felt different now. Not bigger, not smaller, just fuller. The books stayed where she left them. Her mug lived beside his. Her boots stood next to his shoes by the door. It wasn't about space anymore. It was about presence. One morning as Avery finished a melody on the piano, Grayson walked in with 2 coffees and a look she couldn't quite read. I've been thinking, he said. She raised an eyebrow. Dangerous. I want to build you a studio. She blinked. A studio? Your music deserves a place of its own. She looked at him carefully. I have you. I have a voice. I have a stage. He smiled. Now you'll have walls that echo with your name. They started looking at spaces that week. Lofted brick rooms with too much echo. Hidden basements with charm but no light. Avery wandered each one barefoot, testing acoustics with soft hums. This one, she said in a quiet warehouse with peeling white paint. I can hear it. He didn't ask what it was. He trusted her to know. While the lease processed, Grayson grew quieter. Not distant, just thoughtful. He watched her more. Reached for her hand more often. Kissed her forehead like he needed reminders she was real. One night, curled together on the couch, she asked, What are you thinking about? He hesitated. I have something for you. Her eyes narrowed playfully. Is this a trick? He laughed and reached behind a cushion. A small box. No ring. Just a silver key. To the studio? He shook his head. To the penthouse. She tilted her head. I already stay here. Now it's yours too. Not just a place you sleep. A place you own. Emotion caught in her throat. Are you sure? I've never been more. She took the key, holding it like it might break. This is the first time someone said stay and meant it. I'll say it every day if you need me to. She didn't cry. Not then. But when he fell asleep beside her, arms wrapped around her waist, she watched him breathe. And every inhale whispered a kind of forever. A few weeks later, the studio was ready. They painted it together. Badly. There were streaks and missed corners, but it didn't matter. Music would cover the flaws. She recorded her first track 2 days later. Grayson sat behind the glass, headphones on, smiling like he'd waited his whole life for this. Her voice was different now. Still raw. Still her. But something about it said, I'm safe. When the final take ended, he walked in. You did it. She shrugged. We did it. They played the track back together. She rested her head on his shoulder. His hand found hers. Outside, snow began to fall. The first of the season. Do you remember the night we met? She asked softly. You were singing like your life depended on it. It did, she whispered. He turned to face her. And now? Now, I sing. Because I can. Because I want to. That winter passed gently, like a record spinning on low volume. Fridays were sacred. Her performances at the venue drew in familiar faces, new ones, and those just passing through who stayed because of her voice. She sang songs she wrote in quiet mornings and bold nights. Stories of women who survived, of cities that hurt, and of men who listened. Grayson was always in the crowd, sometimes with a drink in hand, sometimes with nothing but a stare that said everything, and after every show, he held her like it was the first. One late evening, she sat on the studio floor, barefoot in sweaters, notebook open beside her. Grayson entered, holding 2 cups of tea. Another? He asked. She nodded. I can't stop writing. Don't, he said. The world's better with your voice in it. She smiled and patted the floor beside her. They sipped slowly. Talked about nothing. Everything. How silence had become comfort, not a void. I used to think love was supposed to hurt, she admitted. So did I. And now? Now I think it's supposed to heal. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Then maybe we're doing it right. In the spring, she released her first EP. No glamour. No marketing machine. Just her, a small label, and the belief that honesty found ears. It did. Streams became letters. A girl in Minnesota wrote, "Your song saved me." A boy in Seoul said, "I cried." Next morning, Grayson made pancakes with berries. "Fancy," she teased. "It's a celebration." "For what?" "Check the front page." She did. Her face. Her name. A headline that read, "The girl who sang her way home." She covered her mouth. "Is this real?" "It's your story," he said. "And it's only the beginning." Later, walking through the park, she spotted a young girl singing on a bench, soft, shy, unnoticed. Avery dropped a folded note in her case. It read, "Don't stop. The world needs your voice." Grayson saw the tears in her eyes and didn't ask. That night, he played her old recordings. "Why these?" she asked. "To remember how far you've come." She looked at him, then around the room that held their story. The couch. The windows. Keys on the counter. "I never thought I'd be here," she whispered. "You are," he said. "And you're not leaving." She kissed him then. Slow. Certain. Quiet. Because there were no more questions. Only music. Only home.